What's up, everybody? It's your boy Clint here from the Die Hard MMA podcast, coming to you for the Total Takedown UFC Vegas 60. We got a card this week and then another break week right around the corner, so let's make the most of it. As usual, we're talking overs, we're talking unders, we're seeing how long we think these fights are going to last, and the odds are presented to us by Superbook Sports. Make sure you check them out. Like and subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio if you haven't already. Let's get right on into it. First fight of the night, Cameron Van Camp taking on Nicholas Mota. We got a total set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is plus 155. The under is minus 175. This is a great violent spot in my opinion. Both these guys have finishing upside. Both these guys have massively questionable durability. Cameron Van Camp made his short notice UFC debut. He's going to be dropping back to his natural lightweight weight class where he is a monster. He's massive, but he has durability issues from cutting down to get down so far. So he'll have a size advantage. He'll have that glass cannon offensive advantage. However, Nicholas Mota might ding him with a couple of those quick hands, put him down, put him away. I like violence. Under 2.5, minus 175. Javid Basharat taking on Tony Gravely. Total set up for 2.5 for this one. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And I kind of lean towards that over as well. So Tony Gravely is a guy who tends to slow down over the course of his fights. He does everything with power, power, power. So that'll tend to wear on the gas tank. But he's a strong offensive wrestler. He's a decent striker. He's got some pop on those punches. David Basharat is one of these range management type of guys. Karate stance, keeps the distance, and then he can close the range, and he's got solid wrestling to go with it when he decides to go ahead and shift gears. So the question is going to be whose wrestling is better here in this spot. I think Javid is going to be very happy to avoid the power of Gravely, stay on the outside, pick and poke at him as he fights around the edge, and then once they close distance and they get into a scrap in range, that's going to be where the big question takes place. Whose wrestling is better, who's stronger, who's more physically powerful? I think that'll be Tony Gravely, but I think the cardio and the pace and the size of Javid will eventually wear on him. I can see this fight being close and competitive. I can see a late finish for Javid. Always Tony Gravely has that early power edge option. Maybe he can get an early finish, but I kind of think it's Javid round 3 decision, that kind of a situation, so I'll take the over 2.5. Jillian Robertson taking on Mayra Agapova. Well, once again, not once again. We've got a 1.5 for this women's MMA fight. Over 1.5 is minus 150. The under 1.5 is plus 130. And I would be nearly tempted to take violence yet again on this one. I hate the 1.5 mark is kind of my only problem. We have seen that Mayra Agapova is not a very good defensive grappler, but she's been doing nothing but work on that since she got beat in her last fight. Jillian Robertson should have a very clear grappling edge. The thing with Jillian is that when she gets bullied by somebody who's bigger, more physically stronger, that seems to wear on her, and she doesn't react well to punches when she gets hit. We know Mayra Agapova has fast shots. We know she has power in all of her punches and kicks, big knees. There's a lot of ways that both these girls can finish this fight. Mayra Agapova on the feet or with ground and pound. Jillian Robertson obviously with a TKO or a submission. Submission definitely more likely of the two. I wouldn't be shocked if this one creeps over that 1.5 and finishes late in the second round once Agapova's gas tank has run dry and Jillian has kind of drown her in the deep waters, if you will, but I also would not be shocked if Jillian gets her down, taps her early, or honestly, if Mayra Agapova catches Jillian in that first round. This one could be violence. It could be over quickly. Since the total is set at 1.5, screw it, I'll say under. Let's say under. We're going to have a quick ladies' night tonight. Daniel Zellhuber taking on Trey Ogden. Total at 2.5 again. Over is plus 100 even money. The under is minus 120. And I will side ever so slightly with violence on the under here. Daniel Zellhuber, you know what? Actually, scratch that. I'm going to side with the over. I'm going to say this thing goes 15 minutes. Trey Ogden, he showed some toughness. He showed some durability. He showed defensive grappling. Everything you wanted to see from him in his first fight. Just didn't quite get the nod. Problem is he got outstruck pretty badly. Now his opponent, Daniel Zellhuber, making his UFC debut, Dana White Contender Series kid, he's got everything we like to see. I can see him outpacing someone like Trey from distance. Whether or not he gets the finish is really going to be that big question because he could happily pick and poke for 15 minutes. And then if we get into a ground scramble, we have seen Daniel Zellhuber pretty solid grappling when he gets in top position. But against a guy like Trey Ogden, he's really going to mind his P's and Q's. Trey's going to be live for a submission once this thing hits the ground. I do think Daniel Zellhuber is good enough to stay out of that threat. But like I said, he might have to take it a little bit more cautiously, meaning maybe we get that over. So if I had to choose, I will say over 2.5 at the even money mark. I'm definitely not betting this one, though. With these UFC Dana White Contender Series debutantes, you've really got to take a couple of notes. We got to watch them fight a couple times, see if they pass this initial test and what that looks like, because he could blow Trey Ogden out the water without any type of effort. Denise Gomez taking on Luma Lukbunmi. Total set at 2.5. Over is minus 280. The under is plus 240. It's kind of a classic Loma Lupu-and-me fight. I expect this to mostly take place on the feet. Both these women, solid striking. Loma Muay Thai. Denise Gomez, a bit longer, a bit rangier, a bit larger as well. So I think if there's going to be a finish, it would come from the Denise Gomez side, believe it or not. But Loma has proven time and time again she's extremely tough. She's extremely durable. She's the kind of fighter that you really don't want to mess with in there. So Denise is going to have to go in with the right game plan to pull that off. Regardless, this thing's going over. I don't see much of a finishing opportunity for either women unless Denise is just that much more powerful. I don't think she is. I think Loma can hang, and if anything, this is going to a split decision. So over 2.5, minus 280. Louis Kosi taking on Trevin Giles. Total set at 1.5 for this one. Over is minus 145. The under plus 125. And I'm struggling with this one, if I'm being honest. I don't trust Trevin Jones, not even a little bit, but he should have every advantage in this fight. The thing with Louis Kosi, he hits like a truck. This guy can wrestle, he's physically powerful, and he's got some serious pop in his hands. So Trevin Giles, as soon as he slows down or slips up, makes a mistake, it could be all over for him in one big shot. And that's kind of Trevin Giles' thing, is he does well until he slips up. He always makes that mistake. It's just a matter of whether or not you can capitalize and make him pay for it. If it comes early, Louis Kosi's going to knock this guy out in the first round. If it comes late, you better hope you've drained Louis Kosi down long enough to where he is tired and can't continue. Otherwise, you're going to pay for it dearly. Trevin Giles, obviously, he has some pop in his punches as well. He's going to be the bigger guy here in this fight. He potentially could finish it himself early, but at the same time, I kind of feel like after coming off that knockout he did last time, he's not going to rush it. I think he's going to look to jab, stick, and move, avoid the power shots, drag this fight late, and probably win a clean decision type of situation. So I would say the over 1.5 at minus 145 is the way that I would look. But with a Kosi brother, don't be shocked if it ends early. Sarah McMahon taking on Aspen Ladd, total at 2.5, and I hate this one. Absolutely hate this one. The total is over minus 170, under plus 150. And usually I would say, it's women's MMA. There's some finishing upside on Aspen Ladd, but, Sarah McMahon's pretty tough, pretty durable. Thing is, Aspen Ladd turns up as the fight gets deeper. Sarah McMahon slows down the later the fight goes. Sarah McMahon has gone belly up in that third round multiple times. She's 41 years old now, I think. That gas tank is not going to get any better. The durability is not going to get any better. The heart, the quit, those things are all there. They're not going anywhere. She's at the age where she is a complete fighter and probably going to be hanging it up sooner than later. Aspen Ladd, on the other hand, I think this could be her coming out party. This could be the time we finally see her put it all together, get all the pieces in a row, really put a solid performance together. And she's getting an elderly veteran, somebody, like I said, who's close to retirement age, that she should be able to get by and pass this test. The thing with Aspen Ladd, she's mostly a finisher. She's a crazy banshee. She hits hard. She's powerful. She's dangerous on the ground. And the way Sarah McMahon slows down, I think this is headed for a round 3 finish. Your classic Aspen Ladd is down 2 rounds and needs to get the win, so she turns it up in round 3 and takes her out. It could happen sooner than that, but there's no way I'm playing it over 2.5 because I think this fight will end at the end of the second round or early third. So I guess I'll say under 2.5. But again, a total I'm not really looking forward to playing because with Sarah McMahon, this could be a wrestling match that goes all 15 minutes, no problem. Pat Sabatini taking on Damon Jackson, another 2.5. Over is minus 205. Under is plus 180. And that makes sense to me. Pat Sabatini is a tough guy to get out of there, hard-nosed wrestler. He's got the submission upside, obviously, but someone like Damon Jackson, very similarly, he's got pop in his hands, but he's also primarily a grappler. He's also very tough and durable, very hard to put away. I think these guys end up in a grappling match. I think these guys go toe-to-toe for 15 minutes. We see a lot of nice ground scrambles. This fight should be fun, but I will say it makes 15 minutes, over 2.5, minus 205. Marc-André Barriault taking on Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. The total is pick'ems, 2.5, minus 110, over and under either side, and that makes sense to me. Anthony Hernandez, mostly a finisher. Marc-André Barriault, mostly a decision guy. So this is going to come down to, can Fluffy outpace Marc-André Barriault? That's his move. Marc-André outpaces other people, grinds them out over the course of 15 minutes, makes them fight his pace. If Anthony Hernandez can put enough pace on a guy like Marc-André to break him, we're just going to have to tip our hats. Nobody does that. That's not a thing. That doesn't happen. So if that's Anthony Hernandez's game plan coming into this, like it always is, it's going under. Because he's either going to get caught with something big, or he's going to force Marc-André into a bad spot and finish him himself. So I do think there is some validity to the under 2.5. But every time Marc-André Barriault's in a fight, I want to just blindly fire at the over, because that's how this guy fights. So I'm not touching this total. I will say under 2.5 because I kind of believe in the Fluffy side of things. with him forcing either a finish on himself or a finish on his opponent. I will say under, but I don't have any conviction on that whatsoever. Rodrigo Nascimento taking on Tanner Boser. Total set at 1.5. Classic heavyweights, folks. These mid to low level heavyweights, they're giving us an over 1.5 at -130. I like that. I think I'd take the over in this spot. Tanner Boser has shown an inability to get up from the ground whenever he gets taken down by people. Rodrigo Nascimento, he is actually a primary grappler. He's a guy that's got a good solid ground game. He's submitted some people in the UFC when he made his first two fights. Got 2 guys out of there relatively quickly. Tanner Boser's not a guy that really gives up chokes and submissions. He's pretty good with his defense on the ground, but he's got no get-up game. I could see a positional win here from Rodrigo Nascimento. I could see him getting back control. I could see him getting top control, but not really quite being able to get Tanner Boser compromised or out of there. This thing could go a bit deeper. On top of that, Tanner Boser, he wasn't always a finisher. Like, his last couple finishes have been over guys that are completely washed, people in the wrong weight class, guys that have durability concerns. Those are the guys that Tanner Boser is finishing. More often than not, he doesn't get people out of there. He's a decision machine. He's actually more of a point fighter at heavyweight than anything. So this over 1.5 at -130, I think that's a lot of recency bias. I think that looks pretty good. I might actually pull that trigger. Joe Pyfer taking on Alen Amedovski, total at 1.5, and it's an Alen Amedovski fight, folks. Under 1.5 is -175. Chalky as that sounds, that's the only way you can look here. This guy's been finished 2 out of 3 of his UFC fights. Both times, it was under a minute and a half. One time it was like under 15 seconds. So Alen Amedovski is not UFC caliber. His offense, however, could be UFC caliber. When he hits people, they tend to just crumple up and fall over. Now, Joe Pyfer, be like Joe Pyfer. This is UFC's new guy from the Dana White Contender Series. Massive amount of hype surrounding this guy. He's a good, solid fighter. I get that, but if he comes in and does not respect his opponent, he could end up getting flatlined himself. If he's believing his own hype and he disrespects Alen Amedovski, it could be over in a hurry. So, everything considered, I just think this points to an under. Violence here all day. Amedovski needs a finish early. Joe Pyfer is already a finisher from what we've seen, not really a guy to take the long route. So it's pricey, but I think I like under. Bill Algeo taking on Andre Fili. Total set at 2.5. The over is -220. The under is +195. And I know some people may be tempted to take the under on this one, but Bill Algeo is notoriously durable. And Andre Fili, even though we saw him cracked in his last fight, Bill Algeo don't hit like that. This is going to be a volume-based technical brawl. That's what this is going to look like. Lots of speed, lots of quickness. These guys picking and poking at each other, trying to catch one another. I think we're going to get a very fun back-and-forth, scrambly type of fight. I'm going to say over 2.5, -220. I think we're going to see a split decision in this one. Gregory Rodrigues taking on Chidi and Njokuani in your co-main event here. Another 1.5 total for this one. Over is -135. The under is +115. And I would be a little tempted to play that under 1.5. Gregory Rodrigues is a guy that his chin has been questionable to me for a very long time. I've tried to fade him before, thinking because he's been rocked, he's been clipped, he's been wobbled, but people just have a hard time actually finishing that and putting him away. Chidi and Njokuani's not a guy with that problem. Chidi's got big time power. He's going to have a speed advantage here. And if he connects on Gregory Rodrigues, I think old Greg goes down. The only difference here for me, though, is Chidi is a guy that's been exposed on the mat before. Now, in the UFC, he hasn't had that disadvantage yet. Nobody's been able to quite get him there without dying. If Gregory Rodrigues comes out with the idea of grappling, I think this could be just as lopsided on the ground as it might be, or might look at least on the feet. I think Gregory Rodrigues will be able to take Chidi down, smother him, potentially even submit him or TKO him from down there. So I do kind of like that violence under 1.5 just with the way these guys fight. If Gregory grapples, it probably squeezes over that 1.5 round mark, but if he isn't smart enough to use that game plan, which, we can't control these fighters' game plans, right? They come out and do what they want to do. If he's looking to strike, this thing probably goes under. Main event time, Yadong taking on Cory Sandhagen. Total set at 4.5. Over 4.5 is -145. Under 4.5 is +125. Man, with the firepower that these two guys have, how could you not look at an under here in this spot? Yadong is a big-time prospect kid, right? This guy's coming along great. Last couple fights, big finishes. He's been down on the scorecards before, got a big finish when he needed it. That's just kind of how he rolls. He's got absolute hammers in his hands. Cory Sandhagen plays the outside, lots of kicks, lots of movement. He tends to outpace and outvolume people, but he's got those flying knees. He's got submissions. He's got plenty of finishing upside as well. We don't really know what it looks like when these guys get finished, though. Cory Sandhagen's only been finished once, and that was by Aljamain Sterling, the current champ, via rear naked choke, and it was almost like a fluky back take, right away, quick type of situation. He went 25 minutes with Petr Yan, didn't get TKO'd or leg kicked to death or anything like that, even losing that fight. That's saying something. So the fact this guy can take a beating and keep it going and keep that pace up that entire time, all the fighters that he's fought, I think the over 4.5 makes sense from a Cory Sandhagen standpoint. The only issue for me is Song Yadong. This kid nukes people. And I don't know what it looks like when he nukes Cory Sandhagen because, like I said, nobody's been able to get Cory Sandhagen out of there with punches especially. Song Yadong's probably the guy that might be able to do it. Does he fight like someone like Petr Yan? I mean, maybe a little. Not really. Not really. Less volume, hits harder, less leg kicks. Like, it's a different style, but you kind of have a hard time seeing him do that for 25 minutes, right? In a 15-minute fight, he seems to get one over on people. He can always clip somebody if he's down and in trouble. As this fight goes deeper, I feel like it plays more towards Cory Sandhagen. I want to believe in Song Yadong, but I kind of got to see it here. So I'm thinking over 4.5 at minus 145. I would like to say the under, but since Cory is mostly playing to a decision, I'm going to say over. And because Song Yadong's really got to show me that he can finish someone the caliber of Cory Sandhagen, or, show me that Cory can be finished at all, then I'm going to say over until we see otherwise. That's the total takedown, folks. Make sure you smash that like button for me. We'll see you tomorrow for the undefeated post-weigh-in show. Let's roll.